So I recently made a tweet, I know, big mistake, about how I thought the new Digimon Time Stranger game was better than anything Pokemon has put out recently. In that same tweet, I said that I still enjoy Pokemon more as a whole. I even made a video recently saying that I think I enjoyed Scarlet and Violet more, even though the games are just fundamentally, it's a worse game, it's a worse product. I still enjoyed it more because it's Pokemon. And in response, I have had some people say that Pokemon and Digimon are not comparable. And I mean, I just felt crazy because growing up, it was always, oh, Pokemon versus Digimon, you know, which do you prefer? I have a vivid memory of my younger cousin saying that she preferred Digimon, and I was just like absolutely batshit insane. What is wrong with you? You know? So I've just had to think about it. I'm like, can we compare the two? And I mean, yeah, you absolutely can. And I think I've kind of narrowed down why people are saying that you can't make that comparison, and I'll explain why I do make the comparison. Then we're just going to talk about it because I think it's a really interesting topic because comparison is inevitable. Obviously, comparison can be bad, but it also does a lot of good to where I don't know, I don't think it necessarily should be discouraged. Bad comparison, yeah, sure. You can be like, hey, that's a bad comparison. But just comparison in general, I don't think it should be discouraged. So first of all, why is it bad to compare things? This video is going to be mostly focusing on video games and just media in general. Obviously, comparing yourself to other people, a lot of the time it can lead to a lot of negative feelings and just isn't healthy. But there's definitely healthy ways of going about it. It can be used as a motivator. But just like anything in life, too much is something can be bad, so stay safe out there if you're going to compare yourself to others. But yeah, in regards to media, comparing can lead to unrealistic expectations. I think when I think of that, I immediately think of Temtem. Temtem, they kind of, in their Twitter bio, I remember distinctly saying that they were inspired by Pokemon. And I think people picked that up. And it was around the point where people were kind of getting sick of Pokemon and like just how the games had been going lately. So of course, social media picked it up and were like, oh, this is the Pokemon killer. I can't find anywhere Temtem themselves saying we're going to kill Pokemon. All they ever said was we are inspired by Pokemon. The only thing I've noticed was I think Temtem made a tweet, must have been a quote retweet, thanking a fan. And in that fan's tweet, it originally started by saying, fuck Pokemon, Temtem's great. Or so I don't know because the tweet's been deleted since, but Temtem obviously quote retweeted that and were like, hey, thanks. And people got upset that they gave that tweet attention. Afterwards, Temtem deleted their tweet and apologized. Besides that, I've not seen anything in Temtem's marketing that's like down with Pokemon. It was entirely like a community-made buzzword, phrase, Pokemon killer, whatever. So I would say that's an example of a comparison negatively affecting a game. In that same breath though, if the most interesting thing about your game is that you're like another game, I think that's the real issue. You got to do something a little more than be something that people already enjoy, you know? But yeah, them being called the Pokemon killer, I think just led to this unrealistic expectation. I think it made people forget that the game was an MMO, and I distinctly remember seeing some posts like within the last year or so being like, man, remember when this was meant to be the Pokemon killer? And it's like, they never said that. We did. I think Temtem was just an unfortunate timing thing because I don't think there were many other companies trying to do, you know, their own Pokemon, I guess. So I think people saw, you know, something like that and they kind of they ran with it a bit too far. Now we're seeing a lot more, you know, monster tamers is what I like to call them. It's not this brand new idea, you know, that like there's people like the genre. They clearly do. I mean, Pokemon's as big as it is for a reason. So we're getting less of that, oh, this game's gonna kill Pokemon. I think people realize now that Pokemon are a bit too big to be killed. So in regards to Palworld, it was more like a middle finger to Pokemon, like, look, we're grown-ups now, we want violence and guns. And I mean, Palworld is genuinely a fun game. In terms of its gameplay, it plays similarly to Arc, but you can still compare the two games because there's monster designs that look similar stylistically. I think with that in mind, you would be as equally valid to say something along the lines of Palworld made a better product than Pokemon. Now, I personally don't believe that because they clearly ripped a lot of the designs from Pokemon. There's a difference between inspiration and straight up copying. Not going to get into that right now. You could still totally say, yeah, Palworld made a better game than Pokemon, and people did. And people would be like, oh, well, they're not comparable because the gameplay is more like Arc, whereas Pokemon's an RPG. But a part of both games is the monsters. Like a big part of both games is the monsters. And I think that is important because yes, well, the monsters aren't necessarily the literal gameplay, it's still a big reason as to why people are attracted to and even play these games and try different genres. I never played Ark before, but I ended up really enjoying Palworld, and I was drawn in by the monsters. Part of why I even titled my Lumentale video that actually did quite well and got eyes on the game, I titled it Pokemon-like because it immediately tells you there's similarities to Pokemon, and so many people like Pokemon. I feel like there's this big fear that if you compare any sort of monster tamer to Pokemon, it will kill it on the spot. In regards to Temtem, and honestly just in general, I truly believe if you just make a genuinely good product, people will play it, they will check it out, they will share it for free, and that's free promo. If it's genuinely a good product, same goes for like YouTube videos. Genuinely a good product, I think it will be shared. And while I enjoyed Temtem, maybe people were put off by the MMO aspect of it all. Maybe people just didn't like the monster designs, the art style, like who's to say? I don't think Temtem is a bad product. Some things are just going to be more niche. And I mean, Palworld is a perfect example of comparing something to Pokemon. And I mean, I think all it did was help it, to be honest. The controversy behind it all, of course. So if you see me calling something a Pokemon-like, it's just to immediately let someone know, like, hey, there's similarities to Pokemon here, you might enjoy it. The issue becomes if the most interesting part about your game is that there's similarities to Pokemon, then yeah, of course, it's probably not going to do well. Of course, that's going to overshadow all the other cooler things. I'm sure there's a whole other list of reasons you can come up with as to why comparing things is bad, but let me explain why I compare things and why comparing things is good, actually. So I compare things to help me digest what I'm consuming. I picked up the new Digimon game and I immediately understood how the monsters worked for the most part. There's a bit of complexity there when it comes to evolving and devolving, because they take like 10% of their stats when they devolve and evolve, and it all kind of like, I don't know, there's a bond, and that's like IVs and EVs. It's like trying to explain that to a new Pokemon player. It's going to kind of just go over their head. They have to be deep in the weeds to start to really grasp it, I think. I've only got like 23 hours in Digimon. I'm not there yet, but when it comes to their stats, Digimon has HP, which is health, attack, which is physical attack damage, defense, which is taking damage from physical attacks, intelligence, which is special attacks, like magic damage, spirit, which is special defense, and that's how well you take special damage, and it also informs, I guess, how much healing a healing move will do, apparently. And then there's speed, which is, I think, just how fast you go in the turn order. There's, of course, SP as well, because there's no like PowerPoint system like in Pokemon. So it's kind of just like mana based. You have 1000 SP, and if you use this attack, the attack uses up 100 of your SP. So you can use that attack 10 times. Or there's weaker attacks with less SP, and you can use more of them. Pretty good system. I think it's a standard for RPGs. I also want to add, if your argument is other games have these things, these stats and all this other stuff, it's not unique to Pokemon, yes, but can you collect the monsters that have these stats, and do they evolve, and do they have elemental resistances? That is the main difference. So yeah, you could say stats standard for RPGs, not really unique to Pokemon and Digimon, but then of course there is personalities, which is pretty much just natures. Depending on which personality your Digimon has, it will have higher or lower stats. If you've got a Digimon with the brave personality, its attack and another stat, they get buffed compared to, they just get higher numbers. You can like feed sort of things to your Digimon to, like, I guess, raise their stats, kind of like EVs. There's even like kind of like TMs. You get these discs and you can give them to your Digimon. It's kind of more like cassette beasts. In cassette beasts, you can give a move to your cassette beast, or well, your tape, I guess. You can give a move to it and you can take it off and you can give it to another beast. Digimon has the same thing. You can give and remove moves. They also have the moves that they just learn by level up, which honestly isn't, it's kind of like, it's more like a signature move, I guess, rather than level up moves. But they do gain more, I guess, depending on the Digimon. But yeah, all of that being said, in a vacuum, these are monsters. They have personalities that are similar to the natures. They've got the same sort of stats, and they can evolve. Of course, they can also devolve. Pokemon can't do that. but they evolve into something bigger and stronger. And that is where I compare Digimon to Pokemon, the monsters themselves. I'll get back to it, but I think comparing is just one of the fastest ways to recommend things to people. There's been so many times where I'm trying out something new and a friend of mine will be like, oh, you like this? You might like this. It's because they are comparable in some way. When it comes to Pokemon and Digimon, the monsters are the comparable part. And believe this or not, there are some people that only really play Pokemon for the monsters and the turn-based battling aspect of it. Some people don't really care too much about the story. And I think that's where some people think Pokemon and Digimon can't be compared, because if you're comparing the story and just kind of how the game actually plays to Pokemon and Digimon, yeah, there's differences. Digimon is like asymmetrical sometimes, like you've got 3-4 monsters on your side of the field at times and you're fighting, you know, less, but it's still turn-based battling with monsters. And that's all I really, when it comes to playing games like that, I just want to see monsters, man. That's what I love. I love turn-based games with monsters. I just love monsters. I just love monster designs, okay? I just want to see the monsters. Even in response to my tweet, I had someone being like, oh, you should check out Persona if you like Digimon, because I think Persona and Digimon, they probably play similarly. I've even had people say I should try Shin Megami Tensei. And I have. I tried it actually before I played this Digimon game. I tried it a couple years ago and I just couldn't really get into it. I don't know, I didn't really care for the monster designs in that game. I like my monsters cartoonish, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I'm sure Shin Megami Tensei is great. Just couldn't really get into it. Might have to try it another time. Maybe I just, maybe I try it next year and maybe I love it. Who knows? But this is like what I'm ultimately trying to get at with this video. Pokemon and Digimon can absolutely be compared because, I mean, they already kind of always have been. But second of all, they've got monsters in it. I think as soon as you kind of put, you know, I guess catchable and collectible monsters in a game, the Pokemon comparisons are going to be there. And I get that it can be annoying, but Pokemon is the big guy. I think if you're trying to decide if a game is better, I mean, ultimately, it's all a matter of opinion. But if you're trying to decide like subjectively, I think it would just be the quality of the content. I expressed this off rip by saying Digimon is a better game. I enjoy Pokemon more still, but Digimon is fun. It's good. It's a better game, but I still overall like Pokemon more. Like that is literally the perfect example of like subjectively better product. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to like it more though. But yeah, at the end of the day, comparison helps you discover more of what you enjoy. Just the other day, a friend of mine was screen sharing, played some music and I was like, oh wow, I really like this. And so then I saved some of the music they played and the next day I was like, hey, the music that you showed me was similar to music that I listened to recently. You might like this. Where comparison gets annoying is when it's all you hear, and I totally get it. But ultimately, I think it's just part of the world we live in. Sometimes things can be annoying, but I think deep down, most things are comparable in some way, you know? Like there's been plenty of times where I'm watching something and like a small thing reminds me of something else and I'll just blurt it out. And I'm not doing it to take away from it or imply, oh, this thing copied this thing and it's bad because it's copied or blah, blah, blah. Like everything is inspired by everything. You get what I mean? Like I didn't just start making Pokemon videos because I had the great idea of making Pokemon videos. I started making Pokemon videos because I saw other people making Pokemon videos and I was like, oh, that's something you can do. Most recently, another tweet I've made, I tweeted out how I wish all of the Palworld monsters were as well designed as this little pink spider creature. And so many of my replies were like, it's just Lurantis and Galvantula. Palworld is honestly under quite a bit of scrutiny because, yes, they did a lot of copying homework, let's say. And after sitting on it for a bit, I'm actually going to say I think this little pink spider creature, I think it gets a pass. I think in terms of things that are similar to Pokemon, it's the eye shape is like the same eye shape as Lurantis, I guess. Obviously it's pink, but Pokemon don't own the color pink. And the legs are pretty similar to Galvantula's. There is more difference there to where if they were inspired by Galvantula's legs, at least they didn't just rip his legs off and put them on this thing. They changed it a bit. There's some replies on my Twitter of me being like, oh, they're very similar to Galvantula's legs, or I think I might have said they're one-to-one because truthfully, I was out picking up prescriptions and I like looked at a picture of Galvantula and I was like, oh man, these are so similar. But like when you actually put them next to each other, there is some differences there. I think Palworld will be under scrutiny for a while, unfortunately, and people are just going to be like, oh, it's just this and this combined. And it's like, well, no, it's not. It's not. I would love to see Palworld, by the way, like redo like a lot of the borrowed designs. That would be great, because they're clearly capable of making some good stuff. Like this little pink spider, I don't like spider creatures at all. Like this is like the first spider creature I've seen that I'm like, oh my god, I love it. All in all, the point of this video is to say, yes, Pokemon and Digimon are comparable, because like me, some other people are more invested in the monsters of the franchise than they are the story being similar to. I don't play Pokemon for the story. It's cool, and honestly, Scarlet and Violet story is some of the better stories in the Pokemon. Like I think their stories are getting better, so I'm like, okay, maybe I do play Pokemon for the story now. But it's not to say like I can like a game doesn't have to be exactly like Pokemon for there to be comparisons, and also for me to enjoy it. Like yeah, if you play Pokemon for the story and you don't really care as much about the monsters, you might not like Digimon. Or maybe you love Pokemon's monster philosophy design so much that you simply can't play Digimon because you can't wrap your head around. You're like, I don't like these designs at all. There's quite a lot of Digimon designs I don't like 50% of them probably. I just don't really care for them. But the ones that I do like, those are the ones I'm going to use, and those are the ones that I'm going to bond with and enjoy my time with. I'm going to kill all the ones that we don't like and they're ugly and are bad. It's all a matter of perspective. If you're looking at it from gameplay, I mean, there is similarities in their gameplay, but yeah, Pokemon and Digimon are different. The vibe's different. Don't go into Digimon expecting Pokemon, because it's Digimon, it's not Pokemon. But I don't think it's unfair to compare them in the way of like, hey Pokemon, Digimon has managed to make something better than you guys have. It's kind of embarrassing because, well, one, there's always been this like, it might not have been on them, but there's always been this kind of like Pokemon versus Digimon angle, because they both have Mon in the name and they both came out around the same time. And Digimon is the underdog here. They're not as big as Pokemon. Pokemon has a lot more resources to make better games, and Digimon making a better game is kind of just like, hey Pokemon, what's going on, man? As of recording, Legends ZA comes out in like 8 days. I'm very hopeful for it, and I've got no doubt I'm gonna like the feeling that's going to be inside me when I play that game. It's going to be nothing that Digimon could ever give me. I love Pokemon through and through, but comparison can be healthy. It can also be annoying, and I get it, but comparison, competition, blah, 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 blah. Hopefully some of my ramblings has made sense. I had a lot kind of in my brain that I wanted to just get out, and yeah, gave me an excuse to talk about Digimon again. For anyone that wants an update, I'm, like I said, 23 hours into the game now. I think I'm about like 30% done if I had to make a guess. If I'm unable to finish it before Legends EA, I will probably come back to it whenever they drop episode 1 of the DLC. Next year. I think they're doing it in January, because yeah, they're doing like episodic content. But either way, I'm going to be streaming Digimon. That's pretty much all I have to say. Comparison isn't a big bad evil boogeyman, I guess.